The air in Lothlorien tastes of ash the moment she closes her hand, leaves that never-knew winter shiver as if under a distant thunder. The ring sits upon Galadriel's palm, an eye of molten gold in the starlit gloom, humming with a will older than kingdoms. Frodo's breath catches. The mirror beside them darkens, its visions snuffed out. Somewhere far to the east, an unblinking shadow falters just for a heartbeat, as if startled that its doom might wear a crown of silver. If this path into darkness grips you already, tap like so more wanderers can find it, and tell us in the comments which corner of Middle-earth you'd fight to protect in this timeline. Subscribe if you dare follow every twisted branch of these what-if tales through shadow and starlight. Frodo's hand, still trembling from the memory of fire and the Nazgul's knife, hangs half extended between them. He has just offered her the ring. In the true tale, she refused. Here, something in the weave of the world slips. Galadriel hears his small, exhausted voice again. You will take it? You will take the ring? This time, her laughter does not crack like shattering ice. It is soft, almost sorrowful. I have withstood it long, she murmurs, more to herself than to him. I have stood against it. Since before your sun first rose, I have counseled patience, resistance, secrecy. Do not meet power with greater power, I told myself, or the wise, or the blind Valar who never came, when our people screamed. Her gaze turns eastward, piercing the twisted roads of time, seeing tangles where once there were straight lines. Yet always we fled, from Tirion to Alquilanda, from the grinding ice to Gondolin, from Beleriand to this fading refuge between world and sea. And he gathers unceasing. Orcs burn the woods of greenwood. Smoke clouds the stars over Mordor. Men fall to his whisper. Wizards break upon his patience. She looks down at Frodo, an insignificant creature, and yet the doom of all hangs upon him, on his pity, on his pain. The hobbit's eyes glisten. He is not begging her. There is only weariness and a desperate hope. I cannot do this, he whispers. I am not strong enough. It is that confession that breaks the final barrier. For an instant, she is as she was in the blessed realm, Galadriel of the Noldor, taller than most men, radiant with pride and wrath, standing at Alquilanda as the white swans scream. She remembers oaths spoken in the dark, jewels on high, kins laying by torchlight. She remembers Mando's doom rolling over them like thunder, their rebellion, their price. The ring flares in her hand, sensing that old fire. You were never meant to, she says quietly. We laid this burden on you because we had no courage to claim it. We hid behind your smallness. I will not hide any longer. At the edge of the glade, Sam sucks in a breath, too stunned to speak. Frodo reels. My lady, you said, I know what I said, she answers, voice sharpening. I saw what I might become, a queen not dark, but beautiful and terrible as the dawn. All shall love me and despair. I have stood at that precipice and turned away. Her fingers close around the ring, and yet, she whispers, despair comes anyway. If I fall, let it be upon him. If I am queen, let him kneel. The forest seems to shrink around her. Starlight draws inward, bending like water pouring into a deep well. Her hair lifts as if underwater. The white of her gown dims, taking on a faint shadow at the edges, as if reality itself cannot quite decide what color she wears. Frodo staggers back. No! Sam lunges forward, reaching for her wrist without thinking. The very air thickens, resisting him. His hand touches her sleeve, and it is like grabbing the side of a glacier, cold, ancient, impossibly hard. He is thrown back as if a gust of silent wind has struck him. Galadriel raises her hand, ring still not yet upon her finger, and looks at it, contemplative. The wise believed no one strong enough to use this tool without being consumed. Her lips twist. The wise forgot who forged the three. Her other hand rises, and for the first time, Frodo sees Nenya unveiled, no longer hidden from mortal eyes. Its silver band gleams against her pale skin, the great white stone shimmering with a light that is not of sun or moon. Water and air sing in it. The power that has kept Lothlorien ageless, that has bent time into a lazy loop beneath the eaves. 2 rings, 2 songs, 2 whetstones of will drawn close. There is a tremor in the fabric of the world. Nenya, she says softly, you were made to oppose him, yet you are kin to his work. Will you bind to your brother, or will you break? She slides the one ring onto her finger. Silence falls. It is not the absence of sound. It is a pressure, a great listening. The birds hush mid-flight. The Galadrim on distant flets stumble and grip their bows. Haldir's head turns sharply east. Somewhere in Caras Galadon, Celeborn straightens, hand going instinctively to his heart. Sam feels his ears pop as if a storm is about to break. The mirror explodes, water fans upward in a column of boiling spray, shards of stone flying into the night. Frodo drops to the ground, arms over his head. He tastes metal on his tongue as if lightning has struck nearby. The smell of wet earth and sudden ozone fills the glade. Galadriel does not flinch. Her eyes are closed, lashes fanned like shadows on her cheeks. Her lips move without sound. Inward, downward, she descends. There is a road under the world, paved not with stone, but with will. Upon that road her spirit races. She feels him before she sees him, a weight like an avalanche, like a storm howling between mountains. He is everywhere the ring touches. Barad-dûr, Minas Morgul, the Palantiri, the hearts of men. He turns. Sauron's attention slams into her like a breaking wave. There is alarm in it, rage, disbelief. Insolent child, his thought snarls, hot as volcanic glass. Thief of my craft, how dare you put on what is mine? Galadriel does not answer with words. She lets her will rise. Beneath, Lothlorien, roots grip ancient soil. The Malorn trees, children of older trees from the west, sense the shift. Their song, usually a soft silver murmur in the earth, swells into a roar. They remember the 2 trees. They remember light unmarred. That remembrance answers her. Nenya blazes on her hand, its own song no longer hidden. Through it, she gathers all that has been preserved here, every unfaded leaf, every spring that never went dry, every child's laugh under gold canopies. The preservation of beauty has a sharp edge. It is possessive. It does not easily yield. Galadriel takes that possessiveness and forges it into a spear. You laid your hand upon my kind long ago, she sends back along the ring's channel, her voice a cold river of memory. You tricked Celebrimbor, seduced my craft, twisted our pride. You enslaved 9 kings and crowned yourself Lord of Gifts. Her presence towers suddenly, bright and hard. You will not take one more. The collision of their wills is invisible, but Middle-earth shudders. In Barad-dûr, the eye flares, a tower of flame rising to a pinnacle of frustrated malice. Orcs in the dungeons clap clawed hands to their heads and howl. Nazgûl, poised to ride, stagger, their forms flickering. The red light of Mordor dims for a single instant, as if a great hand has been laid upon its heart. Smoke hesitates in the air above Orodruin, then roils more thickly on Amon Hen. Far away, Boromir, still living, pauses mid-arg with Aragorn. He grips the horn of Gondor, frowning toward the east. What foul wind is that? He mutters. In Orthanc, Saruman starts as if slapped. His own ring, self-forged and lesser, suddenly feels like a toy in his hand. Who dares? He breathes. Then the truth pierces him. No. In Rivendell, Elrond's hand falters over a page. Vilya flares ice blue upon his finger. He gasps. She has, across the sundering sea, in Aman, a bell tolls once, though no hand moves to ring it. In a cottage in the Shire, Rosie Cotton wakes from a dream of golden woods and weeps without knowing why. The battle in the unseen realm lasts less than a second and also a lifetime. Galadriel is not as strong as Sauron. Sauron is not as pure as Galadriel. His power is vast, but it is scattered, invested in terror, armies, engines, distant dominions. Hers is concentrated, disciplined by grief. She has learned from millennia of losses how to let go, how to resist. Now she learns how to seize. The ring revels. This is what it was made for, not to sit upon a chain around a frightened hobbit's neck, but to ride the currents of a mighty will. It pours knowledge into her, mechanisms of domination, languages of command in the ancient black tongue, and deeper, formulas woven into the bones of A itself. She takes and twists them. Where Sauron once used the one to spy upon and control the rings he gave, she, in a single act of daring, reverses the flow. Nenya, Vilya, Narya, they are all kin, all partly his. Through Nenya, she reaches for the others. For a heartbeat, Elrond feels his mind teeter, staring into an abyss of gold. In Lothlorien, Círdan's replacement on the Havens gasps, Narya burning on Gandalf's hand far away on the plains of Rohan. Gandalf reels in his saddle. Shadowfax stamps nervously. He hears her. Mithrandir. Her voice, once a soft counsel in Rivendell's halls, now carries a resonance that makes his bones feel suddenly very old. "What have you done?" he sends back, his thought sharp with horror. "What you would not," she answers. "What you feared." The eye lashes at her, clawing, burning, seeking to subsume. She holds. There is a snap. Somewhere under the ash mountains of Mordor, a foundation stone cracks. In the high chamber of Barad-dûr, iron seams groan. A great seeing fire convulses, its iris of pure malice constricting. Sauron screams, not aloud, for he has no throat, but in a vibration that rattles the teeth of every orc in Gorgoroth. For the first time since he took shape after Númenor fell, something has struck him in his center. Galadriel does not defeat him. She cannot, not in this moment, but she does the unthinkable. She wrenches a portion of his mastery away. The Nazgûl feel their leashes loosen. They shudder in terror. Freedom is not joy to them now. It is exposure. Naked spirits, still chained by their own hunger, clutch for the familiar weight of his will. She seizes those chains. The ring on her finger, the white ring on her other, blaze in unison, twin stars in the shadowed land of her thought. "You are mine," she whispers. The Witch King freezes mid-step on the winding stairs of Minas Morgul. His sword clatters from a hand that has not felt truly empty in an age. For a sliver of time, beyond the rush of rage and hatred, he remembers a name, a city by the sea, a crown of men. Then a new command washes over him, cool as starlight, implacable as the sea. Kneel. His physical form jerks. He falls to his knees, armor ringing against the twisted stone. The other 8, scattered between Minas Morgul and Dol Guldur and the black sky, falter and descend, writhing. In Dol Guldur's rotting tower, Khamûl the Easterling slams into the floor, a scream breaking from his unseen mouth. Sauron roars and claws at the bonds between them, but they have been rewound, redirected. The Nazgûl do not love their new mistress, but the ring has chosen a side for now, and through it their wraith essence bows. Galadriel's eyes snap open. The glade is a ruin of steam and shattered stone. Frodo lies curled like a child, Sam draped half over him, shielding him as best he can. Both hobbits are shaking. The world around them hums with a deep, unsteady resonance, like a bridge under too much weight. She looks down at them. Her face is very still. "Lady," Sam manages. His voice is hoarse, his eyes wide and wet with shock. What's happened?" She answers with the calm of one who has already stepped too far to turn back. "The balance is broken. The game of hiding is at an end." She flexes her hand, feeling the ring like another heartbeat. "I have taken what no one dared. Sauron is wounded, but not yet destroyed. His servants." She glances eastward, sight piercing through leagues. His chief servants are no longer his. Frodo drags himself to his knees. "Give it back," he gasps. She studies him, and for a moment her gaze is unbearably old. "Frodo Baggins of the Shire," she says, and there is genuine sorrow in her voice. "Do you understand what you ask?" It was my task," he stammers. "My burden, we decided." "You decided in ignorance," she says gently. "You were brave, but small. I do not despise you for that. It is why I loved you, why I still love you." Her eyes shimmer briefly like starlight on tears. "But I have seen too many ages fall to leave this to chance and courage alone." Sam staggers forward, fists clenched. "You said you passed the test," he chokes. "You said you'd diminish, go into the West. You said—" "I have passed that test," she answers, a flash of something like impatience breaking through. "I refused the ring when it promised me a throne over slaves. That was one path. Now another lies bare. To claim it not for vanity, but for preservation. To rule not in dark tyranny, but in unyielding guardianship." The word hangs between them like frost. "Rule!" Frodo's shoulders sag. "That's what it always says," he whispers. "That it will help, that it will save. It lied to Boromir. It lied to me. It is lying to you." Galadriel's jaw tightens. "Perhaps," she says. "Perhaps it twists my every thought even now. But hear this. If I do nothing, your path leads to Mordor, where you will be caught, tormented, perhaps broken and turned. The ring will crawl back to him over your bones. I have glimpsed those futures. They stink of ash." She steps closer, the air around her warping like heath haze, yet cold. "If I act," she says, "if I seize this poisoned blade and drive it into his heart before it devours me, there is a chance, however slim, however costly. Will you ask me to discard that chance because you fear for my soul?" Frodo looks up at her, tears streaking the dirt on his face. "Yes," he says, almost inaudible, "because it's not just yours." Sam puts a hand on his shoulder, grounding him. Something flickers in Galadriel's expression. A crack in ice. A memory of a Silmaril burning in a thief's hand, of ships on fire, of a kinsman's plea unanswered. "We are beyond simple choices," she says softly. "Forgive me." She lifts her hand. For an instant, Frodo thinks she means to strike him dead. Instead, a soft radiance washes over him, over Sam. Lothlorien itself seems to lean in, branches bowing. "Sleep," she commands. They try to resist. It is like trying to stand against the tide. Their eyelids droop. Limbs grow heavy. Frodo's last sight before darkness is her face, limned now not in the gentle glow of the golden wood, but in the stark brilliance of something far more absolute. He wonders, as his consciousness sinks, if Middle-earth will wake to a sun or an eclipse. When the hobbit's breathing evens, Galadriel lets out a breath she did not know she held. "Forgive me," she repeats, to them, to Nenya, to something beyond Arda that she has long suspected is listening and not intervening. Footsteps crunch on the broken flagstones. Celeborn steps into the ruin of the glade, silver hair disordered, sword half drawn. His eyes widen at the sight of the shattered mirror, the unconscious halflings, the ring blazing on his wife's hand. LOTR, he breathes, using the name only he dares. What have you done? Her gaze meets his, and there is love there, and also a remoteness creeping at the edges, like frost at the edge of a window, looking into a warm room. What I warned you I might, she says, what I dreaded and have now embraced. His jaw clenches. We swore long ago to resist this temptation, to let the younger children shape their own fate, to leave Middle-earth when our time waned. We swore many oaths, she replies sadly. Some we broke, some broke us. This one I could not keep while the shadow thickened. Would you rather see elvendom swept into the sea, men enthralled, dwarves buried in poison dark, hobbit holes turned to graves, all because we kept our hands clean? He looks at the ring. I see Sauron's work upon you, he says, voice tight. Not in form, but in certainty. Her chin lifts. Then see also his wound. Look eastward. He does. His elven sight pierces leagues. He sees a dimming over Mordor, a faltering in its coherence, as if the land's hatred has been momentarily distracted. He feels the Nazgul's bonds twisted. You did this? Awe and fear war in his voice. She nods. I have no wish to be Queen of Ashes, but I will meet him on his own ground. I will take his servants from him. I will command the storm rather than merely shelter under roots while it passes. It will not pass, not this time, not while he endures. Celeborn looks at her a long moment. Then Middle-earth will have a queen indeed, he says, and those who will not bow. Her eyes close briefly. They will be protected, she says at last, each word deliberate, from him, from all who would ruin what remains. If they refuse even that, then they will be contained. The pause does not go unnoticed. Celeborn sheathes his sword slowly, and the halflings, he asks. Guard them, she says. Do not harm them. They will be needed. Her gaze softens a fraction. They represent what we claim to protect, without their consent, he murmurs. Did Manwë ask ours? She answers, weary steel in her tone, when he penned us in Aemon like guilty children. She turns, looking up through the Malorn canopy, beyond stars, toward an invisible west. I will not be the valor's patient subject anymore, nor Sauron's victim, nor time's. The ring throbs on her finger as if in agreement. Far away, on the plains of Rohan, Gandalf sits very still upon Shadowfax as the Rohirrim ride, streaming past like a river of spears and horse breath. Gandalf, Éomer calls, seeing the sudden pallor on the wizard's face. What is it? Some new treachery out of Isengard? Gandalf shakes his head, white hair stirring in the wind. Not treachery, he says softly. Not yet. A choice made where I had hoped it would never be. He feels Narya burning, answering a summons not yet spoken. Galadriel's new gravity pulls at him, at every ring-bearer. Rohan must ride, he tells Éomer. Saruman's doom has not changed, but after... His gaze flicks briefly toward the southeast, where Lothlorien gleams like a distant star. After, all paths will be harder. At that same moment, in the high halls of Rivendell, Elrond assembles the remnants of his household. Glorfindel, ageless and bright, leans one shoulder against a carved pillar. His hand rests near his sword hilt, more from habit than threat. Is it true? He asks. She has taken it? Elrond feels Vilya's weight as never before, as if it has become suddenly heavy with expectation. Yes, he says simply. I felt her claim. It was not wholly forced. Some part of me answered. Then we are bound to her now, Glorfindel says. It is not a question. In a way, Elrond replies. The three were ever linked. Sauron's hand fell from us when he lost the one. Now a different hand reaches. She does not compel, not yet. But the tide of her will rises, and we float upon the same sea. Arwen stands by a balcony, looking out over the Bruinen's tumbling waters. Her dark hair hides her face. Will she be another Sauron? She asks, voice tight. A tyrant in starlight instead of fire? Elrond's mouth twists. She has loved this world, he says. She has cherished its beauty, its songs. Sauron coveted, then consumed. She preserves, but preservation can become a prison if it does not allow change. Glorfindel's gaze sharpens. Will you stand with her? Elrond looks down at his hand, at the blue gem that hums now in resonance with a distant gold. I will not hasten another kinslaying, he says, nor another war among the wise, not while Sauron still endures. If she can weaken him, I will take that boon, though I mistrust its cost. He looks at Glorfindel, then at Arwen, but neither will I bend my knee to any who would chain the fates of men. I remember Numenor. Arwen turns, eyes glistening. And Aragorn? She asks. What of his road, if she claims this power? Can there still be a king of men beneath an elven queen who holds the ring of dominion? Elrond hears in that question not only politics, but the crack in his daughter's heart. That too has changed, he says quietly. The doom I saw for him, for you both, is now tangled with a thread of gold. I know not where it leads. Only this: if he claims his crown, he will do so in the shadow of Galadriel's choice. On the river, the fellowship continues, ignorant for hours of the storm rising behind them. At the Argonath, as the great stone kings loom, Aragorn feels a prickle on the back of his neck. The air tastes faintly metallic, as if before lightning. He looks up into the carved face of Isildur and feels, for a strange heartbeat, that stone gaze shift, no longer locked upon some ancient western foe, but turned inward toward the golden wood. Isildur, Aragorn whispers under his breath, fingers brushing the hilt of Andúril. What would you say if an elf had taken the ring you failed to cast away? The rushing of Rauros answers with distant thunder at night. By their small fire, Legolas stares eastward, eyes unfocused. Gimli grumbles about the quality of the wood, the damp, the ever-present risk of orc arrows from the shore. Boromir polishes his sword in tense, repetitive strokes. Is aught amiss? Aragorn asks the elf softly. Legolas' jaw works. I feel a change in the song of the world, he says. The golden wood tightens. Its light draws in like a clenched hand. There is a brilliance there now that was not before. A brilliance that stings. Galadriel, Boromir mutters, unable to keep suspicion from his voice. The lady, bind your tongue, Gimli snaps, quicker than usual in her defense. Boromir lifts his hands in a gesture of uneasy peace. I meant no slight. Only that power in these days grows wilder with every turn, first in the Shire, then in Orthanc, now in Lothlorien. Can any of us still claim to know the true bounds of friend and foe? He glances at Frodo, who sits withdrawn, staring into the fire. The hobbit's eyes are shadowed, as if they have seen something vast and terrible. Do you? Boromir prompts, softer now. Know what side you stand upon? Frodo starts, dragged from his inward struggle. He remembers Galadriel's hand closing around the ring, their forced sleep, waking in a soft bed with Lorien's light dimmer, somehow, yet more intense. He remembers her bending over him, her hand cool on his brow, her eyes both kind and unreadable. You will go on, she had said as he struggled to speak. Sauron's land still awaits. He will feel my hand upon him, but he is not yet unmade. There remains a deed that only small unseen feet may do. You'll let us take it, he had croaked. After, I will lend you the secrecy I can, she had answered. He is looking at me now, at Lothlorien, at what I have dared. Go while his gaze is turned. Even a dark lord cannot look in all directions at once. And you? He had asked, unable not to. What will you do? Her smile had been strange then, beautiful and brittle. What I must. Go, ring-bearer, and know this, if you fail, I will not. The world shall not fall to him while I yet hold breath and gold. Now, by the river, those words sit heavy in his gut. I don't know, he tells Boromir honestly. I don't know where the lines are anymore. I only know this thing. He pats the chain under his shirt, the weight conspicuously unfamiliar now that its burden is gone, wants to draw them all into one place, into itself. And it has found a willing hand. He pushes himself up abruptly. I need air, he mutters, walking to the edge of the camp, staring out into the dark. Sam trails him quietly, as he always does. Behind them, Aragorn's gaze lingers. Whatever winds blow from Lothlorien, he says, more to himself than to the others, our road remains. We go to Mordor, or we go nowhere. But if she strikes him down from afar, Gimli ventures, frowning. If the Dark Tower falls before we ever reach it, what then? What becomes of this world with no Sauron and an elf queen holding his weapon? Questions for a day I hope we live to see, Aragorn answers. For now, we endure. While the Nine travel and the White rides and the Grey plots, Lothlorien transforms. The borders of the Golden Wood sharpen. Haldir walks the flats one evening and realizes, with a start, that he cannot see beyond the eaves as he once did. Not because his sight has dimmed, but because something in the boundary resists the outward gaze. Where once Lorien was a lantern in the dusk, now it is a closed flower, light folded inward. Galadriel sits upon a throne woven of Malorn roots and mithril. She did not build it, but the wood rose and metal bent under the pressure of her presence, forming a seat where she may focus the flood she has invited. Before her kneel figures that would have made the hearts of men fail. The 9 Nazgul, cowled and armored, bow their invisible heads. A thin mist of cold leaks from their forms, frosting the living wood beneath them. Their swords lie at their sides, unraised. Celeborn stands to one side, hand on the rail of the Talon, watching. Look at them, he says low, almost to himself. More shadow than flesh. You would make such things your captains? Galadriel's gaze does not leave the Nazgul. I did not choose their making, she replies. That was Sauron's art and the greed of men. I choose only not to let such power roam unbound. Better they kneel to me under oaths of restraint than fly free in his name. They have no oaths, Celeborn corrects. They have compulsion. The Witch King lifts his head as if pricked by the word. His voice, when it emerges, is like wind in a tomb. We are what we are, he says. We serve. We have always served. Not always, Galadriel counters quietly. Once you were proud kings. He flinches. That memory is pain. It is also leverage, she says. You will ride at my bidding now. Where once you spread only terror, you will spread law. Where once you hunted with fire, you will hunt with chains for those who would trample the innocent. A faint hiss of bitter amusement escapes him. Law, innocent. Daughter of Finarfin speaks of such things while wearing the master ring. The daughter of Finarfin also remembers your first oath, she replies. You swore to protect your people, to keep their lands from war and famine, to preserve their line against all darkness. You failed. You took his metal, his promises, and in trying to defend, you destroyed. Her eyes narrow. I offer you a different failure or a different service. Will you cling to the habits he burned into your bones, or will you wield what you are in a new pattern? The ring whispers, feeding her exactly what to say to sting them, to hook them, to bind them closer. She hears it. She uses it anyway. Camul's gauntlet creaks as unseen fingers flex. What choice have we? He rasps. Your command sits on us like iron. Our wings beat or fold at your whim. There is always a choice, Galadriel says, though she knows this is not wholly true. It is narrower now, that is the tragedy of your existence. Surrender to Sauron again and lose even the ghost of yourself you hold. Or bow to me and retain threads. I will not promise you peace, only purpose. The Witch King laughs, a low, broken sound. Then purpose we shall have, bright queen, he says, until you and he tear each other's throats out and leave us to cower under the victor. Command, and we obey. First, she says, you will fly north, a flicker of interest. There is a tower of stone and metal where another would-be power has set himself up with wheels and engines, she continues. Saruman of many colors, who believed he might balance between us like a boy upon a razor. He has served Sauron and served himself. Now he will learn to serve me. Celeborn's eyes flash. You would unleash the Nine on the Rohirrim, on men who have stood loyal against both Isengard and Mordor, on Saruman, she corrects, his orcs, his wolves, his abominations. Rohan may tremble at their approach, but they will not taste Rohirrim blood while my word holds them. They will break the wizard's back while Sauron still reels. She turns her gaze fully on the Witch King. You will not kill Theoden King, she says. You will not slay Gandalf if he stands before you, nor Aragorn, son of Arathorn, nor any heir of Númenor who yet holds a shard of true kingship. Do you understand these names? He hisses softly. I understand, he says, though I question your fondness for the Seeking's get. For all their flaws, they stand between the shadow and the fields of the simple, she answers. And between me and the darkness, I might become. The ring tugs at that last thought, pulling threads of doubt and wrapping them in gold. She ignores it. Go, she commands. The Nine rise as one, cloaks flaring, though no wind stirs here. They sweep from the talon, their forms thinning, twisting, rising. Above the Malorn crowns, 9 dark shapes tear into the sky, trailing vapors of cold. Celeborn watches them vanish into the north. Every time you use them, he says quietly, it will become easier. Yes, she answers, and every time I watch for that. Hold me when I stumble, my lord. Remind me of who I was. I will, he says, if you permit it. Silence stretches. She does not look at him when she admits, I may not. On the plains of Rohan, storm clouds gather as they ought not. Eomer's riders, sweeping across the grass in search of Saruman's warg scouts, feel a chill pass through them, utterly at odds with the summer sun. Horses whinny and rear, white breath smoking in the suddenly cold air. Gandalf reins Shadowfax sharply, looking skyward. He sees them, 9 black shapes, winged and terrible, stooping not toward the west, not toward Gondor, but veering slightly, like hounds with a new scent. Down, he shouts, Nazgul! Swords ring from scabbards, men cry out. But the 9 do not dive upon the Rohirrim. They wheel above, circling once, twice, like vultures taking measure of a battlefield yet unspilled. Then, to Gandalf's astonishment, they streak northward, toward the smoking ruins of Isengard. What madness is this? Éomer breathes. They leave us? Gandalf's eyes narrow. They are called elsewhere, he murmurs. By another hand, Saruman stands on the pinnacle of Orthanc, robes whipped by an unnatural wind. His staff glows at its tip, gathering a writhing storm of black and white energy. Below, the Ents batter his walls. Water floods his machines. Great wheels shatter under roots. Fire hisses and dies. You simpletons, he shrieks down at them. You think yourselves strong? You think the age of trees endures? It is over, over. He raises his staff higher, voice dropping into a chant of old forbidden words. He means to unleash something vile, something harvested from the pits beneath Isengard, where he has twisted nature and spirit. A last resort. The sky breaks. The nine descend like falling stars. Their shrieks tear the air. Even the Ents halt, bark, cracking with startled alarm. Hobbits, Merry and Pippin, clap hands over ears, tumbling behind a wrecked gear. Saruman's spell shadows on his lips. His eyes widen, disbelief carving grooves into his pale face. No, he whispers. You cannot be here. I did not call you. I did not. The Witch King hovers before him, his steed's wings beating gales that nearly throw the wizard from the tower. Cold radiates from him, turning the very air brittle. Insolent imitator, comes his hollow voice. You called our master fool when you thought to steal his place. Now a new will sits upon us. She finds your ambition untidy. Saruman's staff flares desperately. I serve Sauron, he spits. I have always. You serve yourself, the Witch King replies. Now you serve her. For a moment, he lashes out, not with sword, but with a wave of anti-life, a gust of despair so profound that even the stone of Orthanc shudders. Saruman's staff splinters in his hands. He screams, clutching at his chest. Something within him tears, not his heart, but the web of subtle powers he has spun. His voice, once melodious, cracks and crumbles. He staggers back, hair blowing wildly. Who? He gasps, blood at the corner of his mouth. Who commands you? The Witch King's head tilts, as if listening to a voice only he hears. Then slowly he says a name Saruman knows, but never thought to fear this way. Galadriel. Saruman's laugh comes out as a broken, wheezing thing. The Lady of the Golden Wood, he rasps. The high Noldo who played at humility. How far you have fallen, Mithrandir. The last is spit, aimed far away at one who cannot answer. He looks east, toward Lothlorien. His expression is a twisted mix of awe and bitter, furious recognition. You will find, he calls to the wind. That domination wears no better on you than it did on him. The nine close in. Spare his life. A distant voice commands the Witch King. Break his power. Take his sight. Leave him to witness what comes. The Nazgul obey. When they fly away, Isengard lies flooded and ruined, its master blind, staffless, trapped in a tower that no longer answers to his voice. Treebeard and the Ents resume their work, baffled but grim. They did not strike us. Treebeard rumbles slowly, later, to a thoughtful Gandalf. They flew like arrows loosed at a different mark. Strange days indeed, Room. Strange, Gandalf agrees. In his heart, the strangeness tightens into dread, for power unused is one thing. Power unleashed and swiftly effective is another. Word spreads. Men in the east whisper of black riders who came not to burn their villages for failing Mordor's demands, but to tear down the corrupt satraps Sauron had installed and vanish before punitive orcs could arrive. Some call them vengeful spirits. Some, confused, call them deliverers. In Gondor, rumors reach Denethor's ears. The Nazgul broke Isengard, he says flatly, sitting on the steward's chair. fingers dug deep into the arms. At another's command? What new jest is this? His informant, one of his secret network of spies, swallows nervously. My lord, all reports agree. Gandalf the White was there. He saw them turn away from Rohan, saw them fly to Orthanc. The wizard Saruman is broken. The Ents flooded his pits. And above it all, the Black Riders served some unseen will from the Golden Wood. Galadriel, Denethor says, the name like a stone in his mouth, ever meddling, ever clothed in secrets. He remembers her visit to Gondor long ago, when she walked the courts of Osgiliath and Minas Tirith, watching his father, his people, as one might watch a failing patient. He remembers feeling laid bare, measured, and found wanting. She now holds the enemy's ring, the spy whispers. Or so the songs already say. Denethor's laugh is short and ugly. Songs, he spits. When did we begin to trust songs over eyes and stone? His glance flicks up toward the high chamber where the Palantir waits. It has shown him much. Black fleets, great armies, the lidless eye, and now something he cannot decipher. A bright, burning knot of whiteness in the west of Middle-earth that the eye seems unable to pierce. He suspects, without confirmation, that this is Galadriel's new bastion. If she topples Sauron, Faramir ventures, voice careful, is that not cause for hope, father? Better an elf queen of old wisdom than an ancient shadow of malice. Denethor looks at his younger son as if seeing a child playing with a knife. Hope, he says. You speak of hope as if it were coin to be spent freely. I remember Numenor only in books, Faramir, but I remember too well what befell when elves and men tangled over the shape of the world. You would trust one who has outlived empires to rule your sons? He pushes himself to his feet, robes whispering, if she destroys him, he says, then we will stand beneath her oversight as surely as we once stood beneath the tantric gaze of the Valar, unconsulted, judged from afar. Men will become clients again, pets at best. Faramir's jaw tightens. Better a living pet than a dead sovereign, he says quietly. And Galadriel has not struck at us, only at Saruman, at Sauron. Perhaps she means, perhaps, Denethor cuts in, she means to clear the board before claiming it. Keep your soft perhapses, son. I will watch, I will wait, and I will not kneel easily, not to any who wears that ring. He does not say aloud the other thought that coils poisonous in his mind, that if the chance came to take the ring from her, he might seize it for Gondor's use. The thought is treason against the wise. It is also, he tells himself, pragmatism. In Mordor, the eye rages. Sauron has not been idle while Galadriel bends his nine. He probes her defenses relentlessly, testing every ward she throws up. His armies march. His forge smoke rises, yet something vital has changed. Where once his will radiated unchecked, washing over Middle-earth like a second sickly sun, now a countercurrent runs westward. Focused on the Golden Wood, his attention must split. His certainty, once a tide, becomes a river, with sudden rocks in its bed. He feels the Nazgul slipping from his direct control and roars inwardly. He cannot simply rip them back. The ring is the conduit, and the ring now sings to a different master. So he does what he has always done best, adapts. If he cannot own them, he will use their new allegiance to map the extent of Galadriel's ambition. Every time she sends them, every command she weaves, he takes note. He watches the pattern of her strikes at Saruman, at his warbands that overreach in Rhûn, at petty tyrants who wear his token and abuse their mortal charges beyond even his cruel limits. There, he observes, with a twisted facsimile of amusement, She plays at justice, at cleansing. She would cut away my worst to justify her harness of my power. He sees the trap even as she lays it. She will make herself necessary, indispensable. The shield against which they press their faces, even as it hardens to glass between them and their own wills. He learns her rhythm, waits. In the Sammath hour, far ahead of all this, Frodo will stand, his hand clenched around the ring, and fail to let go. But that is another tale. In this one, the journey to that brink is made under the shadow of a second great will rising. The fellowship breaks at Amon Hen as it did before, but the currents nudging each choice are altered. Boromir falls, pierced with orc arrows, defending Merry and Pippin. Aragorn weeps briefly over him, promises Gondor aid, sends him down the Anduin in a boat. Yet when he looks east, toward Mordor, and feels not only Sauron's eye, but Galadriel's presence like twin stars dueling over the horizon, his heart clenches. What realm would I rule? He asks himself. Lo, a Gondor free of Sauron, but watched from the west by an immortal queen? Am I to be a steward in all but name? He follows the orcs with Legolas and Gimli, choosing to rescue the hobbits instead of instantly turning to Mordor. The choice is easier now. The sense of immediate, singular doom has diffused. We cannot leave Frodo to his path alone, he tells himself. But perhaps the Ladies' new war buys him more time than in the tale that might have been. In Lothlorien, time twists. Galadriel rarely descends from her high talon. She eats little. Sleep is a formality. Her days are spent in the unseen war, mind to mind with Sauron, with the ring as both weapon and drug. Through Nenya, she feels every leaf on every malorn, every root in the soft soil. Through the one, she feels the iron in Mordor's mountains, the red heat of Orodruin's heart, the crawling malice in each orc, the desperate courage in each resistor. She could crush so many with a thought. She does not. The restraint costs her. Celeborn, when he visits, finds her thinner, her cheekbones sharp. Her eyes are brighter, almost painfully so. The air around her crackles, like a room too long filled with the static of lightning about to strike. You must share this burden, he tells her, one night when the starlight glitters on the canopy and the world seems briefly calm. Elrond, Gandalf, even Círdan across the sea if you must. Let others help bear the weight, or it will grind you down. Her smile is brief and distant. I do share it, she answers. In every life I preserve, in every darkness I stay. That is the help I accept. He takes her hand, skin cool under his fingers, and when we win, he presses, for he can conceive of her failing only at the cost of his own sanity. When Sauron lies finally broken and his shadow lifts, what then? Do you cast it away? Do you sail west as you once told the halflings you desired? The ring pulses. She hears its soft, insidious laugh. You will not cast me away. You will see too clearly what would rush in if you let go. I will consider, she says. The hedge of that word is unlike her. He hears the fissure. What has it told you? He asks. That men will fall upon each other the moment the common enemy is gone, she replies, eyes far. That Gondor and Rohan and the kingdoms of the east will vie for power. That petty lords will become tyrants. That dwarves will dig too greedily and too deep again, awakened by hunger. That forests will fall to axes beyond any war's need. That hobbits will fade, unguarded between greater strangers' squabbles. That even elves, left unanchored, will grow weary and turn entirely from the world, leaving it to its own ruin. She laughs once, a brittle sound, and the ring whispers, you could hold them, gently at first, a guiding hand, a permanent regency to help the young races grow until they are truly wise. What is 1,000 years of such guidance to one who has seen the light of the trees? Celeborn's hand tightens on hers. And what do you answer? He demands. She looks at him with fierce weariness. I answer that nothing in Arda is permanent, she says. That to hold anything forever is to crush it. That we sought to keep Lorien unchanged and made of it a museum, beautiful and sterile, a denial of death and birth, both. I know these things, I know, then, but knowledge, she interrupts softly, bitterly, is not immunity. I can see the poison and still feel its warmth. That is the horror, my love. It does not make me blind, it makes me complicit. A tear slips down her cheek. He catches it with a thumb. Then let me be your conscience, he says. When the time comes and you must let it go, I will hold you to that promise. She nods, slowly. Yes, she says. When the time comes, the ring throbs, amusement and annoyance tangled. It has heard such vows before. At the edges of Middle-earth, ordinary folk begin to feel the new order before it has a name. In a village in Ithilien, long abandoned under the creep of Mordor's shadow, a handful of brave families have crept back, drawn by fertile soil and stubborn love of home. They plant gardens. They fortify their walls as best they can. They sleep lightly, knowing that orcs may come any night. One such night, torches appear on the horizon. The villagers gather with spears and kitchen knives. Children cling to their mothers' skirts. The men, some old, some too young, stand in a crooked line. The shapes that approach are not orcs. Tall, cloaked figures, faces hooded, horses snorting white breath. The very air grows colder. Nazgul. Panic whispers through the crowd like a sudden wind. Someone drops a spear. Someone else whispers, "Pray," without specifying to whom. The lead rider dismounts. His boots ring on the cobblestones. He moves with a certain stiffness, as if constrained by invisible shackles. His voice, when it comes, is less like a shriek and more like a hollow echo. By the command of the Lady of Lorien, he says, these lands are placed under her protection. Murmurs, fear, disbelief. He continues, no Orcost shall pass this way unchallenged. No servant of Sauron shall settle here. In return you will send word to Minas Tirith and to Edoras that she claims this swath as ward of her guardianship. You will pay no tribute. You will kneel to no one in your hearts. A pause. But if you raise armies for conquest beyond your borders, or if you take slaves, or if you turn your hand to dark arts, we will return. His helm tilts as if waiting. A farmer, older than most, pushes his way forward. His beard is white, his hands calloused. What price? He demands. Nothing's free, not from kings, nor from wizards, nor from riders out of legend. If you drive off orcs, what do you want? The rider is silent a long moment. Obedience, he says at last. To the law she names, no tyranny, no cruelty beyond the miseries fate and the soil already lay upon you. Live, grow, die in your beds if you can. Do not grasp at more than that. If you do, you will meet us. The old man snorts. Seems we've met you already, he says, shaken slightly but stubborn. We remember tales of you burning our homes, of you dragging off our kin. You speak pretty words now, but your shadow falls the same. The Nazgul does not move. Then, very slowly, he sinks to one knee. His cloak pools around him like a stain of ink. I know what we were, he says, voice raw. This changes nothing. But understand, better to bow to one who at least names cruelty a crime than to one who names it policy. He rises. Your mistrust is understood. Tell your children this. Make no oaths to us. Make no shrines. We are not gods. We are not saviors. We are wardens of a prison none of us can yet leave." With that he mounts, and the 9 ride away, leaving the village untouched. The people stand in stunned silence. What in all the tales was that? Someone breathes. The old farmer scowls at the dust trail. "A new kind of leash," he says, "on them, on us. Maybe it keeps the wolves out. Maybe it keeps us in." Time will tell whose hand pulls it tighter. Faramir, hearing of such events through his ranges, writes a careful report for his father, couching his own unease in formal language. "My Lord Steward," he pens, "the Nazgul, now acting under commands not entirely Sauron's, have begun to enforce a peculiar order on the contested lands. They strike at Orcrades, at bandits who pledge to the eye, and at petty lords who grow too brutal. They do not occupy, they admonish and depart." Fear grows, but also a strange relief. The people begin to speak of the Lady of the Golden Wood as a fair-off judge. Some pray to her, others curse her. All, however, alter their behavior under the shadow of her rumored will. He pauses, pen above paper. "What do we call a peace maintained by fear of distant wrath?" he murmurs. "Is it peace at all?" He adds more formally, "I await your counsel. In my own heart, I feel torn between gratitude for any reprieve and dread of what permanent rule by an immortal might entail." Denethor reads and laughs again, that same short, bitter sound. "Permanent rule," he mutters, as if anything in this world is permanent. Yet the longer she holds, the more roots she will sink. The more men will bend their choices around her unseen hand. We are already adjusting. That is the danger, not open tyranny, but invisible guidance. He holds the letter over a candle for a moment, watching the edges blacken, then pulls it away. "Not yet," he tells the empty chamber. "I will not show my throat yet." To either eye. In Mordor, a different eye narrows. Sauron has learned something crucial. Galadriel will not break men to her will directly. She shapes by fear of external threats, by selective strikes, by leaving local rulers in place as long as they do not overstep. She thinks herself merciful, he muses. She avoids the final step, the occupation, the direct command over hearts. That is where I grew strongest. That is where she hesitates. The ring caught between them resonates with dark delight. He probes then, not her front, but her flank, her kin. Elrond finds one night that dreams creep into his sleep unbidden, dreams of white shores, of his brother Elros choosing mortality, of Numenor's rise and fall, of a bright crown under a shadow. In those dreams, Galadriel stands beside a throne in Minas Tirith, hand on the shoulder of a king whose face shifts between Aragorn's and something more shadowed. Her eyes are gentle, but the air around her is thick, unmoving. People move slowly, as if under subtle pressure. "You could stop this," a voice whispers in his ear. "You could take Vilya and tear the ring from her hand. You could claim what your blood once refused." He wakes with Vilya burning, his heart hammering, shame and temptation warring. In Lothlorien itself, the golden wood hums, a great instrument tuned to a new key. Galadriel sits with the ring and sees, at last, Frodo and Sam crawling up the slag slopes of Mordor. She has eased their path where she could. Orc patrols near their route have suffered sudden, inexplicable orders to reroute. A Nazgul, scouting above, felt his steed's wings lock as a command reached him. "Do not look there. Do not see." Sauron strains against that blindness, but he is besieged on too many fronts. Aragorn marches with a host of the west toward the Black Gate, as in the original tale, yet his banner now flies not just the white tree, but a new device. A leaf of gold on a silver field, the sigil of Lorien, acknowledging publicly strategically, the lady's shield. Gandalf argued for it. "If you taunt the eye," he said to Aragorn, "then taunt him with all he fears. Let him believe that not only men, but elves stand openly against him, united under a ring he cannot reclaim. Draw him out. Let his fury blind him." Aragorn agreed, though his hand trembled a little as he wrapped Galadriel's token around the staff from which his banner flew. "Does this make me a king?" he asked quietly. "Or her general?" Gandalf had no good answer. In the end, it does not matter. At the Black Gate, the drama plays out. Challenge, parley, the mouth of Sauron making his cruel display of Frodo's gear, though here, the mouth's sneer carries an extra bitter twist as he mentions the lady who thinks herself my master's equal. "You will not chain us under another immortal elf," he hisses at Gandalf. "We will either stand under Sauron's free hatred or under your soft cage. Between whip and velvet leash, I know which master is honest." "That is your only honesty," Gandalf replies, eyes hard. "To see chains and believe there is no world without them." Sauron gathers his hosts. He throws his full might at the armies of the West. Yet a portion, vital, targeted, is held back, bound in defense. Galadriel, through the ring, has sunk hooks into the very infrastructure of Mordor. Gates misclose, siege engines misfire. Trolls stumble as sudden, inexplicable fear pulses through their crude minds, not fear of the bright swords at the gate, but of a distant, shining wrath that has haunted their dreams. The battle is fierce. Men die, elves fall, dwarves bleed, but the hosts of Mordor do not break the West. They grind, they churn. High above, Gandalf feels two presences clashing, Sauron's blazing eye and Galadriel's cold star. He dares in one desperate moment to reach out. Galadriel he sends now, while he is fixed upon us, while his gaze is rent. Help them, he does not mean the armies. He means the two small figures he senses in the heart of Mordor, so close to their goal that any glance, any stray attention could send doom. Galadriel hears. She has watched Frodo and Sam climb, crawl, falter. She has seen Gollum lurking, torn between his love and hate for the ring. She has debated intervening more overtly, striking Gollum down with a thought, clearing the path entirely. Every time she has held back. They must do this, she has whispered to herself. Some tasks, if stolen, corrupt both thief and victim. Now, though, as the mountains tremble and Baradur's shadow writhe, she feels Sauron's will begin to shift. He senses something at last. Not clearly her war with him has veiled the hobbits remarkably, but a prickling, an itch of wrongness on the slopes of Orodruin draws a tendril of his attention. If it touches them, it will be enough. One Nazgul, one platoon of orcs, one whispered thought in Frodo's exhausted mind. Galadriel makes a choice that no one sees, that changes all. She lifts her hand. With the ring, she does not strike at Sauron. She strikes at Frodo, not to harm, to strengthen, to twist fate around him one last time. "Remember Lorien," she whispers into his overwhelmed spirit. "Remember green grass beneath golden leaves. Remember that there is beauty worth any pain." She does what she has refused until now. She pours power into a mortal's will. It sears. Frodo, at the crack of doom, standing over the chasm holding the ring, feels not only his own desire but a surge of alien strength. He hears himself say, "I will not do this deed. The ring is mine." In the original tale, that would be the moment of failure. Here, another voice rises behind his eyes. Then, if you cannot release it, comes Galadriel's whisper, "I will release you." She grips the connection. She has never possessed a mortal fully. She has guided, nudged, clouded sleep. But this is different. A hand reaching into a burning house to drag someone out by force. The ring fights her. It does not want to leave Frodo. It has sunk too deep, wound itself through too many nerves and memories. To wrench it free would break him. It will kill him, Celeborn had warned when they spoke of such hypotheticals. To tug at it now will tear his soul. She does it anyway, Frodo screams. Sam, watching in horror, sees his master's body arch, sees his hand snap open unnaturally wide. The ring, gleaming on its chain, lifts as if pulled from above. Gollum, lunging in wild hunger, grabs not flesh but empty air. He overbalances, totters on the edge. The ring tears free. For one impossible instant it hangs suspended in the air, midway between Frodo's outstretched hand and the fiery abyss caught between three wills. Sauron's clawing horror, Galadriel's grim determination, and its own instinct for self-preservation. Then, Galadriel's will, amplified by Nenya, backed by ages of discipline and regret, crushes it downward. The ring falls. Gollum, off balance, flails. He does not grasp it. He pitches over the edge, eyes bulging, mouth open in a final strangled cry that is swallowed by the roar of the mountains. Heart. The ring hits the lava. In Lothlorien, Galadriel feels it as a tearing in her bones. In Mordor, Sauron feels it as a universe inverted. The gold melts. The delicate script writhes, then is consumed. The core of Sauron's invested will, carefully partitioned, anchored to enduring metal, dissolves back into the raw heat of the world. There is a soundlessness in the spiritual realm, a sudden absence where once a great bell tolled eternally. The eye goes dark. The foundations of Barad-dûr, already strained by Galadriel's previous incursions, now lack the song that held them together. Stone cracks, walls buckle, towers collapse inward like a dying spider folding its legs. The armies at the Black Gate pause. Orcs drop their weapons, some clutching their heads, others simply crumpling as if their strings have been cut. Trolls roar and flee blindly. Men of the West stand stunned. It is done, Gandalf whispers. He feels simultaneously an ecstatic release and a new terrible weight. For while Sauron's core has been unmade, not all of his diffused malice dissolves. The ring's destruction frees vast energies. The direction of their dispersal is not random. Galadriel, still linked to the ring at its moment of unbinding, becomes the nearest receptacle for much that flees. She did not foresee this fully. She knew there would be backlash. She did not grasp its scale. In Caris, Galadon, she staggers. Celeborn catches her before she falls from her throne. Her body convulses, light and shadow flaring around her like a storm. Images flood her. All Sauron's cruelties, not as distant knowledge, but as if she herself has committed them. Torture chambers, burning cities, oaths coerced, souls broken, 1,000, 1,000,000 acts of dominance. She chokes. No. She gasps. No, I did not. But the ring has dissolved its tether to Sauron's identity, has snapped. The echo of his works has to go somewhere. Her mind, open, vast, bound by her choice, receives far too much. Celeborn holds her, whispering in Quenya, in Sindarin, in the old tongue of their youth. Alatariel, look at me. Remember Valinor. Remember the light before any shadow. This is not you. This is not you. She clings to his voice like a drowning swimmer to a rope. Slowly, painfully, she sorts. These are not my deeds. These are his. These are mine, my pride, my refusal to submit to the Valar, my complicity in the kinslanes, my building of Lorien stasis. Those I own, those terrible, intimate cruelties, no. She shunts them outward, not back into the world, not into random hearts. into structures, into walls. Lothlorien's borders harden. What was once a soft, shimmering boundary of song becomes a nearly impenetrable barrier of will. The air at the eaves thickens. Mortals who approach feel pressure, like the deep of the sea. Many turn back, gasping. Inside, time slows further. Galadriel recovers enough to sit up. "Sauron is broken," she says hoarsely. Celeborn nods, relief and dread mingling. Mordor falls. The Nazgul flickered. Some scream. Still in the air, some simply vanished. I do not know if anything of them remains. "Enough," she whispers, feeling faint, clinging to that one immense victory. He no longer spreads. He will no longer devour. That, at least, is done. Celeborn brushes damp hair from her brow. "And the ring?" he asks. For the first time since she slipped it on, her hand feels lighter. "It is gone," she says. The absence is unbearable and liberating at once. He exhales shakily. "Then take Nenya off," he says. "Rest. Let this be the end." She hesitates. Without the one, Nenya is again only what it was. A great elven ring, preserving and enhancing, but not dominating. Yet its link to the others, to Vilya, to Narya, now hums with new complexity. The pattern she wove through them while wielding the one has not fully undone. She feels faintly the beating hearts of the men in Ithilien, the rhythms of the dwarf smiths in Erebor, the quiet songs of hobbits in the Shire. She could withdraw. She could let go. If she does, a vacuum opens. Aragorn will be king, she says slowly, almost thinking aloud. Gondor and Arnor will be reunited. Men will flourish, for a time. But nothing stops the slow drift toward new empires, new Saurons. The world will forget. Old horror will become story, then myth, then fuel for new ambition. Celeborn's hand tightens on her shoulder. "That is their right," he says, "to err, to rise, to fall. We have had our turn at weaving. Our thread runs thin. Let it go." Her gaze drifts to the west. "We were told that," she says, bitter and wistful, "that we must leave Middle-earth to men, that our time ends. And yet, every time we try to obey, something drags us back. Another shadow, another plea, another chance to prevent catastrophe with the merest touch." She stands, swaying, walks to the edge of the Talan. Below her, Lothlorien glows, unnaturally perfect. Above, the sky clears as Mordor's fumes dissipate. For the first time in years, true dawn spills across Gondor's fields unfiltered. She hears cheers, very faint, like distant surf. "They will hail Aragorn," she says. "They will sing of hobbits and wizards and the end of the Third Age. They will not know how close I came to leaving Sauron a remnant. They will not know how much of him brushed me." Her hand rises to Nenya. She cannot bring herself to remove it. "I fear," she whispers, "that if we go, this world will spin into darkness again. Different faces, same hunger. Can I, knowing what I know, truly leave?" Celeborn's silence is heavy. "What you ask," he says at last, "is, do you have the right to relinquish guardianship? To let them make their own doom?" She turns, eyes luminous with unshed tears. "Yes," she says, "it is not an easy right. It feels like abandonment, and keeping it feels like theft," he counters. "You stand between two wrongs." For a moment, she laughs through the threat of tears. "Always," she says. "Ever since we left Valinor." She looks east, where Mordor collapses, sending up clouds of dust. She looks south, where Harrod's people peer northward, wondering what new star has risen. She looks north, where the Dunedain of Arnor feel weight lifting off their chests. She looks west, past the sea. She makes a choice that will define the Fourth Age. She keeps Nenya on her finger. She does not speak a new oath. Nothing so formal. She simply does not release the threads she has woven, they soothe. At first, Aragorn feels it as a comfort, an extra clarity in his decisions, a gentle nudge away from cruelty when anger flares. When he sits upon the throne of Gondor, crowned with the winged crown, he looks out over his people and feels a soft presence, like a hand lightly touching his shoulder from very far away. He does not resent it at first. "Thank you," he says under his breath, once, after averting an unjust punishment in a moment of temper. He is not entirely sure whom he addresses. In the Shire, fields prosper. Seasons fall into pleasant patterns. Harsh winters and brutal droughts become rare. Hobbits chalk it up to luck, to good tilled earth. A few who met elves wonder if some far-off grace lingers. Sam, who has seen too much, feels it as a faint tension under the soil, a watchfulness. "Sometimes I think the world's holding its breath," he confides to Rosie, "like someone's watching to make sure we don't trip." "Is that so bad?" she asks, holding their child. After all the tripping that's been done, he kisses her hair. "I don't know," he says honestly, "only that I'd like my little ones to learn to walk on their own feet, even if they stumble." In Ithilien, Faramir and Éowyn walk under young trees, planting gardens. They enjoy an unusual peace. No raiding bands disturb their work. Rumors persist of black riders seen at a distance, never close, like crows checking fields for wolves. "We live in a garden with high walls," Éowyn says, leaning on her spade. "No wolves now, perhaps, but the walls, I can feel them." Faramir nods. "Our Lady of the Golden Wood," he says, half in reverence, half in unease. "Protector, warden, invisible queen." Éowyn glances at him. "Would you tear those walls down?" she asks. "If you could." He looks around at the hills, the river, the laughing children. "No," he admits, "not now. Not while the memory of war is so fresh." He gazes eastward, toward the ruined silhouette of Barad-dûr. "But I fear that we will forget why they were raised," he adds, "and then we will feel them less as shelter and more as cage. In Gondor, Denethor does not live to see this age. His line continues through Faramir, who bends the knee willingly to Aragorn. Yet in some older lords' halls, whispers grow of elven oversight, of a subtle hand that guides too much. They call it the Lady's Peace. One grizzled veteran says in a tavern, no big wars, no famines, bandits and tyrants vanish in the night. Sounds good, eh? But my grandfather, he used to say, if you never get to choose wrong, you ain't choosing at all. His drinking companion snorts. Let the philosophers grumble, my son sleeps safe, he'll take that. In Rivendell, Elrond prepares to sail. His heart is pulled, too, ways toward the west, where his parents turned into a star and a bird, and toward Middle-earth, where his daughter has chosen mortality for love of a man, and where Galadriel has chosen immortality for love of a world. He stands with her on the shore as the white ship waits. You could still come, he says to her, even now. Leave this woven net to unspool on its own. Trust them at last to walk without us. You have done enough. She looks at the sea. Waves roll in, foam hissing on sand. The light on the horizon is different than any light in Middle-earth. I cannot, she says, not while so many threads run through my hands. To leave now would be to abandon not just kingdoms, but individual hearts I have touched. To tear away suddenly would be another kind of disaster. Elrond studies her. You are not the same as you were, he says, brighter and harder. Part of you looks at me as if I were a statue in one of your silent glades. Have you noticed? She flinches. Yes, she says, the more I hold, the more distance there is. Between me and them, between me and you. It is the price. Then who will be your equal? He asks softly. Who will speak to you as you truly are without awe or fear? She is silent a long time. Perhaps no one, she says at last. He takes her hands. I grieve for you, he says, not because you chose to fight him. That was bravery and perhaps necessity. I grieve because you have chained yourself to duty in a way that even the valor did not ask. You have made of your love for Middle-earth a yoke that no one can lift from your shoulders but yourself. She looks down at their joined hands. Perhaps, she says again. But if Arda heals under that yoke, is it wrong to wear it? He releases her gently. Ask me when mortals 2,000 years hence curse your name for not letting them wage their own wars, he says, a hint of wryness through the sorrow, if any remember. He turns, walks up the plank. She watches the ship sail, white upon the blue, until it is a dot, then gone. On a hill above Hobbiton, years later, Samwise Gamgee, mayor of the Shire, stands at sunset. He is old now, but not yet ready to leave. The red book lies open in his hand, pages filled with Frodo's spidery handwriting and his own sturdier additions. He writes a last note, and so the great ring was unmade, and the Dark Lord cast down, and in his place there was no one Dark Lord, but many bright lords and ladies, and one especially who watched more than the rest. Some say she kept us safe. Some say she kept us small. As for me, Samwise, son of Hamfast, I only know this. We had peace, and we had gardens, and I never saw another war. Maybe that was worth the price. Maybe my children will think different. He closes the book, sighs. In the west, beyond sight, a star glimmers. In Lothlorien, which no longer fades, Galadriel walks alone under unchanging gold. Seasons still turn elsewhere. Snow falls in the White Mountains. Storms roll over the sea. Forests in distant land grow and die, burn and seed. Empires of men rise cautiously, fight small wars that never quite grow into the monstrous total wars of old. Something in the world's pattern diverts the worst of their ambitions, blunting, cooling, channeling. She feels it all. When a tyrant in Harad begins to gather slaves for great pyramid tombs, a cold in his heart stays his hand. He falls ill by chance before his plans mature. When a charismatic leader in the east begins to rouse armies against Gondor, an unusually harsh winter starves his momentum. His people turn inward instead. She does not micromanage. She nudges. She removes only those stones most likely to tumble all the way down the mountain and crush entire valleys. It is still dominion. Children born in the Fourth Age and Fifth Age and beyond grow up in a world where no Dark Lord marches out of a land of fire. They do not see rings of power. They know elves mostly in legend. Lothlorien becomes, in most tongues, a synonym for a perfect place you will never reach. Few visit. Those who do, after long seeking and rare permission, find it unchanged. The same songs, the same light, the same lady, tall and fair, eyes deep and calm, and so distant that standing before her feels like standing before a still lake that reflects the stars, but not your face. Hunters and wanderers leave her hall with blessings. Their lives run smoother after they find lost paths, avoid plagues. Some come to resent even that, feeling unworthy of any hardship. Others grow content, grateful, soft. One day, an old man comes, bearing a staff and wearing a travel-stained cloak. He is not Gandalf, that spirit left with the others long ago. He is, perhaps, one of those strange men who, legend says, never quite age as others do, touched by older magic. Or perhaps he is only a metaphor. He stands before Galadriel and bows, not deeply. "Lady," he says, "we have lived long under your watch. My grandfather could not remember war. My children think death in bed the only proper ending. We are safe. Her face does not change. Is safety such a burden? She asks. It is, when it tastes of childhood that never quite ends, he answers. We build, we farm, we sing, but our songs lack the deep notes of grief and triumph both. Our heroes are small, our follies smaller. We have no great failures because you catch us before we fall. His gaze meets hers, unflinching. Will you ever let go? He asks. Will you ever let us be? She considers. I fear what you would make, she says. I fear what you would suffer. I have seen too much of both. He nods. And in your fear, we live in your reflection, he says, not in our own faces. We do not know what we are without your hand. He turns to go. Take care, lady of ever-golden wood, he says over his shoulder, for in time even gratitude can sour into resentment, and even love, if it smothers, can feel like a kind of hate. He leaves. She does not call him back. Time passes. Trees in other lands grow and are felled. Cities rise along the Anduin and in the east, where once only tents stood. Languages shift. Tales of Sauron become shadows within shadows, stories told to children who half believe. Tales of the ring become stranger still. Some say an elf lady took it and broke a great shadow. Some say she took it and became a shadow herself. Some say the ring never existed, that it is only an image for the terrible responsibility of power. In LOTH, where no autumn truly comes, Galadriel stands upon her high balcony. The sea's call still murmurs at the edge of her hearing. She could, even yet, lay down Nenya, call a ship, and go. The straight road is not as open as it once was, but for her, perhaps, it would open. She looks down at her hands. Nenya still gleams, silver and white. Her other hand is bare. A faint circle remains on the skin where another ring once rested, like a scar. She could give it all up, but if she does, she sees it too plainly. Wars that never were, plagues that never spread, tyrants that never rose because she quietly unmade them, might come. The world would truly belong to men and dwarves and hobbits, and whoever else walks it now. They would gain the full weight of their freedom. They would also gain back the full scale of their possible ruin. She closes her fingers slowly. Far below, a child looks up at the golden canopy and laughs, chasing a butterfly. His life will be long and gentle and mostly untroubled. She hears his laugh and cannot bring herself to risk exchanging it for a cry. She turns away from the west. In Minas Tirith, in a dusty archive few visit, a scribe copying old chronicles pauses over a passage. And so, in the days of King Elisar, there was peace. And in the days of his sons and their sons after, still peace, though some murmured, "It is too much. It is too long." They said in low voices that a hand unseen smoothed every sharp edge, that the world had lost something wild and terrible and precious when the lady took the ring. Yet none could name what they had lost without sounding mad or ungrateful. So they said little and lived well. The scribe frowns, dips his pen, adds a marginal note in his own hand. Is a story without dragons still worth telling? He writes, then shakes his head, scratching it out. He writes instead, we do not know how it might have been otherwise. We only know that we are here. At night, when the city sleeps, some few wake from dreams they do not understand, dreams of a vast dark eye and a bright tall lady and a small stubborn hobbit standing at a fiery pit. Dreams of a world where the lady refused, where the ring was borne by weak hands alone and thrown away without any elf's dominion. They wake with an ache in their chests, like nostalgia for something that never happened. In Lothlorien, Galadriel sometimes dreams too. In those dreams, she stands in the same glade by the mirror of Galadriel centuries ago. Frodo stands before her, holding out the ring with shaking hands. She sees herself refuse. She feels the dizzying vertigo of that choice to diminish, to go into the west, to remain Galadriel of Lorien, not Galadriel of all Middle-earth. She watches the small ones leave, bearing a burden she could have taken. She follows, in memory, their path. She watches their suffering. She sees them fail and succeed on their own terms, without her intervention, and the ring fall by another accident, another mercy. She sees an age where she is absent, where men win their crowns entirely by their own strength and weakness. It is a harsher world. It is also their own. She wakes from these dreams with tears on her face. She never speaks of them. The leaves in Lothlorien do not fall. The rivers run clear under a sky that never knows the pall of Mordor's smoke. Children in lands far away play at heroes and villains modeled not on dark lords, but on kings who debated, on wardens who compromised, on an invisible queen whose name has lost its corners. They do not know that somewhere in a wood that time forgot, an elf lady stands in unending twilight and wonders, too late, whether the greatest mercy would have been to step back and let the world stumble in the dark. The malorn trees whisper overhead, their golden leaves clinking softly like distant coins. Galadriel listens, alone, and the ring scar on her bare finger is warm and patient.